This is not a tutorial unless you want to make it one, but why would you want to do that? This is a journey, an exploration we shall embark on together over the next few minutes. So if you're knowledgeable on this topic and think that some information in this video may be wrong, please type it in the comments for the sake of the music production community. I'm already doing you guys a big disservice. Yippee! Have you ever wondered what differentiates good music with great music? No, it is definitely not composition, storytelling, relatability, authenticity, arrangement, performance, timbre, lyricism, or complexity. It's actually just loudness. The louder something is, the better it is. What? Dynamics, you say? I don't even know what that word means. The only dynamics I know are Boston Dynamics. They make, like, Decepticons.
Oh, it's the Optimum Pride!
So, how do we gauge loudness? There are a few ways to do it in history, like decibels, various scales, or the literal physical reaction to auditory pain. But nowadays, the hip and cool audio/music people use Loudness Units Full Scale, or LKFS, or LUFS, or LUFS. It is pretty much considered the industry standard unanimously. A bigger LUFS number equals to more loudness equals to better music. Therefore, before we proceed, we must understand how LUFS are actually calculated. Recommendation ITU-R BS1770-5 algorithm to measure audio program loudness and true peak audio level. This is already extremely boring. Let me just summarize. So to put it in brain dead terms even someone like me could understand, the audio from different speaker parts are weighted, divided up, and run through two different filters designed to replicate how most of us humans interpret sound. One boosts the 123 kHz band, and the other one cuts away the low frequencies, respectively. Then the computer continuously takes 400 millisecond snapshots of audio, then does the RMS calculations along with adding some of the previous calculations to turn the individual graphs into actual numbers. After that, the audio is gated, meaning you can't get away with gaming the system by filling a track with silence and then suddenly jump scaring the listener auditorily. Now, nerdy programs can use various methods of data analytics to cough up different numbers. For example, you can average out all the loudness measurements over a song to get integrated LUFS, or over 3 seconds to get short-term LUFS, and just the individual updates to get momentary LUFS, which is the funny number we are aiming to maximize. But if you are unironically watching this video, you might have this question. Why do we have to discuss LUFS? Why can't I just turn up the volume when mixing infinitely? That would be super loud, right? Yes, you are right, but different streaming platforms have different limitations set on the loudness of the music to quote-unquote improve user experience. And your DAW also has restrictions on how loud something can be to protect your hardware. Let's talk about the DAWs first. There are lots of nuances, such as the bit depth and the type of DAW you're using, but for simplicity's sake, I am recording at 24 bits and using Minimeter, an external loudness meter for measurement. Let's do some experimenting instead of explaining. Here is a very generic reverse bass loop with some drums, and there is nothing on the master. I have adjusted the mix such that it is as loud as possible without any compression or effects, but it isn't peaking the master. Here's what it sounds like. Now I'll add this gain tool and increase the mix volume by 30 decibels. Here's what it sounds like. I'm kidding, I won't play it. But this is the beautiful reading on the meter. However, if I were to render out this beautiful plus 28 LUFS loop, it would be really disappointing. The meter reading is only slightly over 1 positive LUFS. The reading also coincidentally matches if I put a digital clip effect at the end of the gain increase. This exhibits two things. One, your computer likely doesn't allow you to go too loud to protect your hardware from exploding. And two, most modern DAWs don't allow you to go too loud due to both user experience and formatting. This explains why you cannot solely increase the loudness of the sound by increasing gain. The loudness has to also be a characteristic of the waveform. Next, let's talk about streaming platforms. If you want to post loud music, SoundCloud. There is pretty much no debating it. The more mainstream platforms such as YouTube and Spotify attenuate your music to around -14 LUFS, which gives all the music that are streamed on those platforms to have somewhat consistent loudnesses. Doing so will make transitioning between songs and genres more pleasant and more hands-off for the normies. We are not normies, we are volume enjoyers, so platforms nerfing the volumes of our mixes are the last thing we want them to do. Fortunately, SoundCloud pretty much does not attempt to balance out your audio at all, so that is ideal. Side note, remember to always bounce down your master from 48K or whatever sampling rate you're using to 44.1. Otherwise, your SoundCloud uploads will sound super quiet. I don't know why, but my best guess is that it's due to their really dog water file compression system. But if anyone knows the real answer, please explain it in the comments. Now let's finally get into the meat and potatoes of this exploration. What specific actions can we do to have insane LUFS numbers? First thing we can do is called ultra compression. I just coined the term. Let's talk about RMS, the process I mentioned earlier, where you square, average, then root a waveform. Let me explain why it is done. Let's say we want to measure the loudness of this very boring sine wave. Bozos may try to add up the area between the waveform and the time axis. But that does not work, because this part of the area is positive, but this part of the area is negative. So if you add them up, the areas will cancel out each other, and that would effectively mean that this graph has zero volume, which is not true. Thinking back to 10th grade maths, if you square any real number, you can get a positive result. When calculating loudness, we can use the squared number for averaging, then we can square root it after we are done. Then we get a useful number. If you want to make an extremely loud sound in this calculation, we must get rid of all the spaces that aren't in between the axes and the amplitude line. For example, these spaces that are in a sine wave. That's better. There are no inefficiencies in a square wave. But how do we turn a sine wave or any wave into a square wave? That's right, ultra compression. Compressing any waveform, especially with extremely heavy compression or limiting, flattens its peak and troughs by reducing its dynamic range. Such compression cuts out the smooth curves of the sine wave, turning them into flat tops and bottoms, which makes the waveform resemble a square wave, which is what we want. Next, let's talk about K-filters mentioned earlier in the summary for LUFS. The stage 1 pre-filter boosts the weighting of the higher frequencies, which are the ones greater than 1 kHz in our case. According to psychoacoustics, 123 kHz is the best frequency to be loud in. So we want to pull a band in this frequency way up, like way up. Then you want to cut out some bass frequencies, since it is not heavily weighted according to the stage 2 pre-filter. You wouldn't want too many frequencies in areas that are not meta, because as we previously discussed, there is a limit of how loud you can be in a DAW. Knowing that, non-meta frequencies would take away loudness from the meta frequencies, resulting in a net decrease in LUFS. TLDR, compress and boost specific frequencies. So here we go, this is it, this is what peak music sounds like. Wow, very cool, very lo-fi. If you for any reason want to test this song out on your system, the only SoundCloud link is in this video's description, but please be very careful and make sure you know what you're doing before even attempting to click the link. The SoundCloud link is private because I don't want this music to even have a chance to show up in other people's recommendations, because I'm such an empathetic, considerate, and wonderful person worthy of being subscribed to. Please. Anywho, if you're like me and enjoy occasionally terrorizing the SoundCloud community with explosive auditory diarrhea, you have your blueprint. You're welcome. This video was not easy, but quite interesting to make. Hopefully I didn't spread around too much misinformation. Thank you so much for stopping by and hope you have a blessed coming 24 hours. I'll see you next time. I mean, you will see me next time. What the hell am I even talking about?